Hello and welcome to Console Shock Retro Modern Gaming Chat with me, Trev, and we are joined by a man. It's Stuart, it's not anyone else, but we're joined by a man who, once upon a time, in deepest Kent, wasn't it, Stu? Around sometime in the 2000s, I think. He started a small shop, independent shop, called DKOldies in Kent. And a few years ago, he sold it to some American that was interested in sort of getting a retro video game shop. I think Stu was like, I don't know what he's going to make of it. Hopefully, he'll just keep it in sort of the South London area. And yeah, it kind of took off in America a little bit, which is kind of weird. Yeah, and it's gone a bit awry, isn't it? I think. But
it's gone a bit. Mate. I mean, there is some truth in what you said there. So. I started a retro video game shop in sort of Croydon, and before that with a franchise as well. And it's unfortunately not affiliated with DKOldies, or thankfully not affiliated with DKOldies. And we used to sell plenty of consoles. So just to sort of set the record straight, they would come into us, we would test them. I believe we tested them thoroughly. And then we would sell them, and sometimes people would come back, I had a problem, and then we would try and sort it out for them, and apologise. And
I can vouch for it. I purchased one day in Stu's shop. I bought Winning 11-6 Final Evolution for the PlayStation 2. I can confirm that it cost about 90p or something, which is a great price for that. For that game, yeah. And I actually don't know what that would go for. It's not particularly collectible or anything, but I just like Konami football games. This is Pro Evolution Soccer, by the way, Winning 11-6. And it had the manual and the disc. It was in good nick, and it worked. It still works. So yeah. No DKOldies shenanigans with Stu's stuff.
I used to do that, and sometimes people used to say, "Well, you buy things in for a tenner and sell them for 20." And I would say, "Yeah, I know, but some things we don't sell. They might go down in price, and then we're stuck with them."
They do know, like the Tesco buys milk for 10p for 4 pints and sell it to you for £1. You know that these people understand how this shit works.
Yeah, I mean that brings up various things. Is when people talk about these people scalping PS5s, they're buying them for 450 and selling them for 550.
Well, let's not. We're not going to go down.
That's not a huge margin.
We're getting there. We're going to get there because as people would have seen, the title of this episode is the problem with retro, which was a little trending thing that has been going around. But before we get to that, you wanted to talk about some pro-Russian game.
Oh no, DKOldies.
Oh right, I thought there was a game, Steel Hearts, whatever it's called, or Steel Magnolias.
No. We'll go on to that into a minute. But there's
Man of Steel. Is it Man of Steel Magnolias or something? It's called
Man of Steel Magnolias. It's not called Man of Steel Magnolias. But Trev, would you play a game called Man of Steel Magnolias?
Would you play a game of the movie Steel Magnolias?
I would. I would, sort of like a life sort of walking sim.
It would, it'd be like a visual novel, wouldn't it? I think it would work quite well. Like Tokimeki Memorial on the PC Engine. It'll be like, is that what it's called? Tokimeki Memorial, Heartthrob School, or whatever it is. You need to play that game, Stu.
I don't know. I think I've lost the thread.
Don't know about Tokimeki Memorial. You mental.
I've lost the thread. I don't know what's going on.
So anyway, if you have any interest in Konami, like Metal Gear or Pro Evo, a lot of the people that worked on those games worked on a dating simulator called Tokimeki Memorial that came out in Japan on like PC Engine, PlayStation, Saturn, check it out. There's got a translation on the Super Nintendo. Someone translated it. So if you like Japanese, Stu, come on, you obviously just got to look at you to know this. If you like your dating sims, you would love that. So yeah,
I do love a dating sim. Anyway, DKOldies. They're in a lot of bother. In the US, because there seems to be a campaign from a load of YouTubers where they keep on buying refurbished consoles, and they take a lot of enjoyment out of opening up these consoles on YouTube, and then saying, "Oh, there's dust inside. Oh, it's down as refurbished," and then making videos about it. And the point is, what I sort of said at the beginning was, well, if a console, sold as secondhand, it's sold as tested, then that's one thing. But then if it's refurbished, it's what is refurbished? Is that it's polished a bit? Is it do you check the laser in there to make sure it's refurbished, or do you change the caps in there? Do you remove all the dust from the inside? What is the level of refurbished? And these YouTubers are very disappointed with the level of service that DKOldies have provided to them, and they're getting sort of quite upset with this, and saying, well, we're paying a premium for a refurbished console. And I would describe a refurbished console as something that's been opened up, it's been cleaned, it's potentially had the caps redone, things like that, just to make sure it's in sort of tip-top condition, and you're not just buying a second-hand one the same that you would get off something like eBay. So they're all complaining about DKOldies, and I keep on saying DKOldies are coming back, and they're really sort of tackling it head on, which is probably not the way to do it. If people are attacking you for your level of service, in my experience, you don't go back to them and go, well, actually, we're right. You're just making these things up. You're got all the complaints under the sun.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think what you should do, and I'm no PR expert, is actually say to them, I'm sorry, let's take this on board. What we're doing here, actually the level of service here, we're not quite up to what people expect. So let's go, we're going to do we're going to train our staff better. We're going to have quality assurance procedures come in. And that's what I think, if I was DKOldies, that's what I would have done a month ago. And then no one would be talking about DKOldies. Am I right, Trev?
Yeah, when it comes to the old Donkey Kong oldies, I assume that's what the DK...
Is that what it stands for?
I have no idea. I assume it is, which is a bit odd if it is. I think it's quite clear-cut, really. They're claiming to refurbish things on their website. You'll pay a sort of a premium for that. And, it looks like people are getting things that aren't refurbished. In fact, they're people complain about CEX not making any effort, but they don't claim to. They just say, look, we get these things in. I think they do a little bit of superficial, just giving it a polish, or they just literally just put it over with an
run a cloth over it,
run a cloth over it, just to get rid of any literal horrendous stains. Like, I'm sure you would have seen some sites from various consoles that you took in your time. Dubious stains and such. And that's all they do. But you know what you're getting, and they're fairly decent prices, really. Sometimes you'll find something cheaper on eBay. Sometimes it will trend a bit higher on eBay than CEX. They kind of are about the middle ground, I would say. Certainly their retro prices have gone up, but kind of that's just they have generally all round, really. They're just keeping pace with that. So but DKOldies, the trouble where they're getting into trouble is they're claiming that they're refurbishing things, but when people like Rich Review Tech USA, has purposely been buying things with under pseudonyms or anonymously, so they won't suspect it's him. He's been opening them up, and the Xbox had swollen caps, and the power button wasn't working. The DVD drive was on the way out. So yeah, it was, and there's Jacob R, I think's the guy's name. He's got a PS Triple, and when he opened it up, it was like just caked in dust. Because they do get like that. That's not they haven't. We're not saying DKOldies have added any extra dirt or anything.
No,
they do. These things, especially late, post sort of PlayStation era, sort of PS1, 5th gen consoles. That's when, after that, they sort of started to get fans and things like that will just suck in dirt and gunk into them, huge vents and all that stuff, which we're still in that kind of setup of a console to this day, really, because they're basically PCs now. So, yeah, they just get covered in crap. Like a NES, like it will still get dirt, but I would argue that most of the time they end up in better nick than a PS3 will these days.
Exactly. There's no fans in the NES, is there? And
no real
you don't
vents.
run certainly anywhere near as warm.
They're passively cooled. Yeah,
exactly. And a PS Triple, as you like to call them, is a machine that runs very hot. But one thing sort of comes to mind where they actually did a video of hey guys, here's how we refurbish a N6. I think they had a Wii. And they go, hey, right, first we check it over, we check this, then we take the top off, check inside, and then, they, I think they got all the dust out, and then they put a seal on. Hey, you've got our seal of approval, and and sort of the way they build it up is, it's actually a little bit like, well, wow, I pay a premium here. I'm going to get a quality machine. It's like if you go and buy a car, if you find it in the back of the newspaper, the advert, and you go to some dodgy estate and you pay someone £1,000, Beckenham or maybe Greenwich or Woolwich, wherever you live, definitely. And the point is, you pay £1,000, you go, well, actually, I'll take my risk, on a bit of test drive with it. It all looked all right. Looked fine. Or then you go to a dealer that says, "Oh, we'll give you, it's the same car, but then you might pay £1,500 for it or £2,000, because it's it's all polished nicely. It's on the lot. It's they can tell you, oh, we've checked it all over thoroughly. It's our top mechanics looked at it. It's absolutely fine. You pay more for that." Okay, that's an added value. That's what they're adding value, but then you're still getting the car from from the dodgy estate in Beckenham or Woolwich or wherever.
Those are the classic places. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where I think it's sort of very frustrating. And then they don't seem to be sort of reacting to it very well. They're just doubling down on. We provide great service. We're great, and and doing these sort of almost sort of fake videos of people going, "Hey, thanks DKOldies. I just got a package from you. Wow, doesn't it look amazing?" And you're just like, oh, that looks a little bit forced, doesn't it? And and they're giving them gifts for doing these things. I don't know. I think they should just have a little think about what's the best way forward for them. But maybe let's get loads more advertising and their sales are through the roof. Who knows?
Yeah, it's I mean, they're relying on, and again, we're kind of probably just regurgitating what Rich has been saying on his YouTube channel, but they're relying on that kind of soccer mom, as you would call it, or kind of, people that aren't particularly. I remember I said this years ago now, but I do recall mentioning on an episode of our show where there was at work we have like Friday drinks, or we did in one of the previous places I used to work in. And one day a guy got a NES Mini. So it's not long after the NES Mini came out, and he set it up because each week one of the departments within the company would run the bar. I've done it a few times. There was other people did it, and this guy was doing it that particular week, and he had a NES Mini and he set it up, got a little monitor, set it up. So I thought, oh wow, this is obviously some kind of retro gamer that I can talk to about stuff. And I sort of went up to him and I was like, oh, cool! You got a NES Mini. He was like, yeah. I love the NES. I grew up playing the NES. I was like, oh, do you collect any NES games? He's like, no. I just saw it in the shop. I didn't even know it was something that they were doing. I saw it in the shop and I just bought it. I thought it was cool. I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of killed that. I wasn't going to get into some any conversations about, obscure NES games and, what it's like to collect them and all that stuff. Just a normal random dude, probably plays like Xbox, and PS4 or whatever. But doesn't really have, like we said again loads of times that we're like mega weirdos with this stuff. We keep going back to the old stuff. Your average standard gamer is just a dude. They just buy the latest console. They completely disregard the older one when the latest ones come out. They'll probably take it straight to CEX, trade it in, get the cash, chuck that on the new one, get the Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, the big franchise. Don't necessarily read the websites or anything. I remember when I worked at Game, there'd be people like sort of my age, our age, people that you would think would know where to look for this stuff. They'll say, yeah, so all these games come out, but I get people asking me this in the shop, like, all these games are coming out. I don't know where do you know what the best ones are? Because I just sort of look at the covers, and I was like really baffled. I was like, and I was like, I assumed it was like maybe he was a dad and just didn't know what to get for the kid, but no, it was him. He was doing it for himself. And I'd sort of say, oh, well, there's IGN, there's Eurogamer. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll look at those. It was like completely, didn't know anything about where to look for that stuff. So they're kind of appealing to that kind of market, those sort of people that aren't fully engaged in every corner of gaming, where old, medium, new, like we are. And they're the ones that will just see a little, viral Instagram post of Joey. Is it Joey from DKOldies saying, hey, we got your order, let's check it out. And like, they were like, oh, cool, I remember playing GoldenEye when I was, 16 with my mates. Cool, I'm gonna buy that. That'll be fun for some party that I'm gonna be setting up for someone, okay, it's expensive. It's $300 for a clean one that's refurbished, but I guess, it's old, isn't it? I guess they just cost that now. Okay, here you go, $300. They're relying on that ignorance, and those people won't. Again, they're not engaged in every corner of gaming, so they're not going to necessarily be seeing people like Rich, talking about how they're fraudsters and everything. They're just there they've got a little nostalgia hit, seeing a video, gave them a little urge to get an old game, and I mean, people like me and you would never be interested. We've already got our stuff for our own, means of either eBay or some of the stuff. It's probably our original things from. I've still got my original N64 and PS1 and Amiga, in addition to like other things that I've picked up in the meantime. So, yeah, it's preying on that, and it's probably working, to be honest. They haven't gone bust, or no one's banning them.
No,
from anything,
it's I think it's a good model. But they've got to. You've got to do what you say you're going to do. That's it. Yeah. I don't think I have a problem with the model. Is appealing to the soccer mums or appealing to people that, well, actually, I want a warranty. I want something that's I know is going to work. It's not going to break down. I don't want to buy it off eBay and it turns up and it's all broken because you didn't package it well.
Exactly.
That's what they're going for, and then you can sell it for a premium. But it's got to be. You've got to say, oh, actually, yeah, it is refurbished, or they should or they should take the refurbished and go down. It's fully tested. It's been running for for an hour.
Yeah. Soak test.
Yeah, exactly, and and actually sell it on from that point of view, and that's really sort of what I think they just need to sort of get that message across, and actually just come out here and say, oh, I'm sorry, we had a procedure which didn't quite work properly. Some consoles got out which shouldn't have done, and we're taking on board everything you're saying. We've got new policies, and we're gonna trust us. We're gonna do things right from now on.
Exactly,
and then problem solved. It's you're rich from your review tech, and everyone else is going to go, oh, okay, well, they say they're going to do these things, and let's hope they do. And brilliant.
I doubt it. I
doubt it.
But they're interested in doing that, but it could happen. It could happen. Being charitable, but yeah.
I mean, you touched upon it earlier, but I wanted to quickly talk about, before we get onto the main topic, is Atomic Heart.
Oh, it
Now
wasn't Steel Magnolias, right?
It's not Steel Magnolias. It's Atomic Heart, not Atomic Kitten, Atomic Heart.
Yeah, yeah.
Now this, I sort of saw and I thought, oh yeah, this looks good. It looks very much like the Wolfenstein games that have come out recently. The last, the Old Blood and Wolfenstein.
Yeah, you like you always say to me like, oh, if it's got Nazis in it, I'm going to really like it.
Exactly. Well,
so you're kind of drawn to that, yeah.
You're shooting Nazis. That's what I like.
Yes. So, yeah, that. Yeah, you like shooting them. Yeah.
Shooting them, not being the Nazi.
No.
That's inappropriate. That's wrong.
Totally,
that's not good.
Down with that.
Yeah, 100%. But anyway, this game, and I thought, oh, actually, that was just up my street. And then I watched a YouTube video from a Russian guy actually, and he was sort of bringing on this pro-Russian game. It's it's apparently owned by a company that is partly owned by Gazprom, who are the Russian state oil company. And I thought, well, actually, I've sort of gone off this now. So the question is maybe future and for our listeners is, well, actually, it looks like a really good game. I mean, it's not really sort of ultra pro Russia or pro, but it's certainly maybe pro Soviet Union or something. And should I play it, or should I go, actually I'll maybe leave this one and go on to whatever next week's sort of big game is. I mean, Trev, what's your thoughts?
I would probably. I mean, I know you like sort of short, sort of 9-10 hour third person. Not too many puzzling elements, just games where you can nicely progress and are fairly linear. Because I'm with you on that. Because I'm very similar. So I'd probably recommend Zelda Breath of the Wild. I mean, it's a bit longer than
You're deflecting the question.
It's a bit more than 10 hours.
You're deflecting the question here, Trev. I've asked you a politically motivated question on your stance in Russia, and you've deflected it.
I much like a politician that would be involved in such matters. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think Trev wants to answer it.
I did play Wolfenstein the New Order when it came out, and it kind of dropped off for me. I do like the Wolfenstein games. Well, I shall say that. I know there's loads of them, actually. I know that it's not just like 3D and, the original Wolfenstein 3D. That's not the original, is it? There was 2D kind of platformers, I think, before that.
I think
in the 80s. Yeah, and 3D. I also played that because that was amazing back in the day. And I still dip in and out of that game because obviously it's available like everywhere now. And I never played like the ones that was kind of ones on the Xbox, wasn't there? Like Return to Wolfenstein, I think. And there was like a 2009 Wolfenstein, which had like a blue skeleton Nazi dude on the cover. I think I've got it actually, but I don't think I've ever played it.
Yeah, I've got it. That's that's quite good. But there's about 3 or 4 recent ones that have come out, and they're absolutely. I think they're really good games. I have to play them on easy.
Yeah, I haven't played the New Blood and the New Colossus, or is it the New Blood, the Old Blood and the New Colossus? I just played the New Order on the Xbox One when it came out in 2014. It was quite an early sort of 8th gen game. It's on the 360 as well, wasn't it? And PS3.
It was, yeah.
It came out on everything. Yeah, I think I've just got the copy of the 360 version. I know I've got like a sort of a box set of it. It came in like a cardboard sort of DVD box set case. On the 360, it needs 4 DVDs.
Oh my God, really?
I think it's got the record. I know, it isn't. I think Lost Odyssey's the record, isn't it? But for a non-RPG, I think it has the most install discs. It has 4 on the 360. But yeah, I did enjoy it. But I mean, you just mentioned it. I play most games on easy now. I just haven't got the time to spend an hour getting past a particular boss, that's got. And I know people said, "Well, the challenge is where the fun is," But no, for me, like the fun is like getting through the story and experiencing the story and progressing it yourself, and it's still fun shooting guys, even if they're taking fewer hits to get to kill. It's still fun. The frustration element is taken away when you play things on easy. So yeah, don't feel bad about that.
No, but I mean, it's very much like that, and it looks very similar in the same type of world. So
I do like alternate history stuff generally as well.
Exactly, it's a real
TV
sort of
and
alternative history, and so you might see me playing it in a week or two. It's on Game Pass, so we'll see if I sort of jump into it, and I'll update you all in the next episode.
I do actually play a really odd, kind of surreal and a bit scary alternate history game where
Where's this going?
You play a football team called England, and you can actually win the World Cup with them. You could beat the teams that we normally lose to, and it's very, very, very odd and surreal, and you getting to beating good teams and things. I think it's called FIFA, I think, or something. But try it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit political as well. You'll like that.
It is a little bit with all the Super League stuff going on. So yes,
all the Super League stuff, and should football be paid as much as they are, and all that. You can have that going on in the background. While you're playing it, the moral questions that brings up. But you should give that a try. You can cause some very bizarre things like Millwall putting them in the Premier League or something.
Oh, why would you do that? I thought you hate Millwall.
I know. Well, they're doing it themselves at the moment. They're like 5th in the Championship or some nonsense. So the nightmare is manifesting. It's like when it happens, it'll be like when they get promoted. It'll be like the sky beams and all Marvel films and stuff that cause a big evil cloud to manifest in the sky. Big red beam breaks the clouds and causes like minions to come down. I think that's probably what's going to happen. It'd be like when Ghostbusters 1, when they opened up the ghost trap in the building and it caused a big cataclysm. It's probably what's going to happen, I think. Very similar. It'll be very, very similar, just with less, ghost busting going on.
Moving on.
Yes.
Anyway.
No more Ghostbusters references.
You can probably explain this better than me, but what's wrong with the retro gaming world?
What is wrong with them old retros? The retro video games, in fact, the retro video games. So we talk about retro games, a little bit, I would say, a little bit on the old podcast. You used to, as I say, when you founded what they called DKOldies back in the day, you started buying games, selling old games.
Yeah.
I would say recently there was a sort of a spate of videos. I wasn't actually aware of the content of them, but people were kind of sort of being very snarky about a series of videos that were labelled the retro problem on YouTube, and some of the old classic people made those. RGT85 was one. Lady Descartes made one, and a bloke I never heard before, but the Essex Retro Gamer. I think So the retro gamer from Essex.
Yeah.
So yes, him. Funny enough, the main sort of tweet that was like, "Oh, look at these idiots," was Jazz Rignall on Twitter. The dude with the mullet.
Oh, I like
Jazz in all the magazines. Yeah, a bit of a legend. He sort of posted like a little montage of all three thumbnails, because they all had the same sort of thumbnail, like big block text, the retro problem, and sort of their face looking very angry or doing a sort of a grumpy face, kind of clickbaity, I guess, but it's not for me to say, but because obviously we put titles in that we would like people to be able to click through because they might interest them. Guess that's clickbait, but there you go. And he was sort of very dismissive, saying the problem with retro gaming are people that make these sort of videos, basically. And I thought, well, they're obviously, trying. Well, it would have been difficult to judge exactly what the issue with these videos is without, actually watching them. So I did make a point. Did you get around to watch them as well?
Yeah, no, I watched them all, and I mean they all had a few points in there which I sort of agreed with, and some of them I thought they were getting a little bit very, very angry with a small group of people
Here we go.
On a website. And
I found the tweet. He says, "Yep, the retro problem: frowning old farts, all saying the same thing over and over again while whinging about one another, rather than showcasing what made old games great, discussing their rich history, and celebrating the joy and fun we used to have playing them." I think that's quite harsh because I watched the videos. And they were really just talking about, it was basically RGT was the original video, and the other two were just responses to that. It wasn't them just kind of really capitalize. Well, I guess it is to an extent, but
the big point he made in his video,
RGT
85, he made the point that there was someone, this father put a picture of his son and him enjoying playing a NES game. I think it was on a what was it? It was one of those.
Oh yeah, Retro Duo. I think it was
Retro Duo, and so they were playing that through a HDMI onto a TV, and then apparently the way it was worded, the whole of the Facebook group, or lots of people in the Facebook group, all were just like, oh, you should be playing it on the real hardware. You should be playing it on a CRT TV. You shouldn't, you should be doing it like this. You should be doing it like that. Why have you not got the real hardware? And it was like, well, he's enjoying the game, and so I didn't really see much of a problem.
There's nothing wrong with it at all. Yeah, nothing at all.
You can play. In fact, these days is play them on an emulator, play them on a classic console, play them on the original hardware,
play them on your left arse cheek, as long as it works.
Exactly. So I actually sort of agree with that point. Play it everywhere, but I think it was where I find it hard to believe that that's the opinion of a select or lots of people online, and that they're.
I doubt it. Yeah, it's a subgroup of a subgroup in a Facebook.
It's a subgroup of a subgroup of a subgroup, and it comes down to what we say quite often is sometimes YouTubers and people online, you got to have faith in what you're doing is the right thing, and not listen to that half of 1% that's like, oh no, this is all wrong. You should do it like that. You should do it like this. You shouldn't listen to them. You should listen to. Well, actually, I think what they're saying is a little bit ridiculous, and maybe not to sort of react to it as I guess we're reacting to it now. But
yeah, I mean, there was some. I mean, like I said, it was RGT was kind of the original video, and the other guys were responding to it. So there isn't too much to say about the other videos like Lady Descartes and the Essex Retro Gamer. They were just basically agreeing with RGT, really, and kind of the similar stance to us. I mean, there's some points that RGT made about the rising cost of it. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, with the rising cost. It's just the economy, really, of old things that people have fondness for and might want to rebuy. Just because, NES games are old, so they should all be $10 or £10 now. But no, that's just not it. It's the same with comic books, which people kind of accept. Old rare comics definitely should be worth £1 million or something. And as someone that collects comics, that's something that I've always been aware of. They were like that when I was a kid, because comic books of sort of Marvel, when Marvel sort of came into their own in the 60s, when Spider-Man and X-Men and Fantastic Four, and DC had already been going since the 30s, and in terms of Batman and Superman. Those media had already existed for several decades before I'd been born. So there was already groups of cohorts of people had come up before me that had those growing up as their growing up nostalgia thing. So they were already well along the way of, rebuying them and having nostalgia and things being rare and all that stuff. That was already way further along. Video games are still in their early, even when we were kids in like the 80s and 90s, they were still in their first couple of decades of being, a standard thing. And it was only really when my first kind kind of memory of people caring about old games to the point where it was kind of an affectionate nostalgia thing. There was in Computer and Video Games magazine from about 96. There used to be a little pullout in the middle that was like on newspaper sort of stock. And it was basically sort of hot off the press news that they didn't have the time to print in the main part of the magazine. So they just put together a sort of a 7 or 8 page kind of pamphlet that was inside every issue in black and white that have absolute breaking news. Still a couple of weeks old, of course, but that's how magazines worked. You know, you're never going to be the internet was around, but that was where we got most of our gaming news, was still magazines well into the late 90s. In that, there was a little like retro corner page, which had like people reminiscing about ZX Spectrum games and Commodore 64 games. Now, bear in mind, this is in 1996. So they're only like the Commodore 64 is only like, you know, and ZX Spectrum are only about sort of 14 years old at that point. Well, less than that, 12 years old, you know, well, yeah, 14 years old. So, you know, compared to now where 14 years ago, that's an Xbox 360. You know, which is kind of really crazy to think. But yeah, that was the first kind of year that I can think of where people were kind of getting nostalgia. And there was also retro compilations were coming out, like Williams Arcade Classics on like the Mega Drive, you know, and on the PlayStation. And at that point, people were probably starting to think, I'm going to rebuy those consoles that are old. It was before YouTube and all that stuff, so just people doing it amongst themselves. I mean, I rebought a NES, I rebought a Game Gear in the 90s.
Yeah, so did I, yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't particularly because I was like, I'm going to collect all the games now. It was just, yeah, you know what? There was loads of games I read in the magazines when I didn't have any money. I've got a bit of pocket money now. I can buy that stuff, and I'd go back and buy it, you know. And then playing... Go on, yeah.
I was going to say that they were ridiculously cheap at that point. And you know, actually, Lady Decker, and I don't really like agreeing with her, to be honest, but she made quite a good point about sort of gatekeeping. And
sexist.
Yeah, and that, you know, there's some people like, well, you know, I'm a real retro gamer because, you know, behind me is a wall of 1,000 games, and I bought them all when they first came out, and you know, sort of things like that you're somehow a better person. I am
a real retro gamer. That was the Hulk Hogan entrance music, but I modified it. Sorry, Stu, go on.
Yeah, go ahead. And so she was sort of like, well, saying, actually, you know, these people that, well, actually, I played it the first time round, they're somehow better than sort of someone that's only just sort of discovering these games. And you know, I am from the point of view that you know, I think that child would have had a better experience playing it on the original hardware on a CRT. But in reality, it's that you can't always do that. You have to you know, play these games, you know, part of history in any way you can, really, any way which you can afford, or any way it's actually available to you. And
yeah,
there are
don't get het up about comparing yourself to other people that are in that hobby that you're in. And this applies to anything like collecting comics or video games. There's always a bigger fish. For every person that has got an entire bedroom filled with games, there's a last gamer who has an entire basement with arcade machines and millions of pounds worth of stuff.
Exactly.
There might be a bigger fish than him somewhere.
There'll always be someone with more games. There's always someone who's a faster runner. There's always someone that can lift more weight than you. There will always be that. And you know, you've got to, like if that photo was on there with that father playing a game with his son, what if the comments were all things like, oh, actually, oh wow, he was playing Super Mario, why don't you get Super Mario Brothers 3? That's a great game, you can play that one. Or, you know, why don't you look at the, you know, giving them other suggestions for good games to play on there that they could play together, and actually really making a positive thing that this you know, young person is getting into sort of, you know, let's say a classic sort of art that we all enjoy, and he's getting that and enjoying it for the first time. I think that's an amazing moment. and it's something that shouldn't be soured by people sort of saying, well, actually, oh no, that's wrong. You should be playing it on this. Oh, I've got more games than you. I'm a better person. Saying things like that, it just makes yourself look a little bit silly, really.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if you've got like a really nice Sony PVM or BVM, you've got an RGB modified NES, you don't have an Everdrive, you have every game that ever came out. That's great, and I'm sure your parents are very proud of you. But you can play like anyone can play. There's so much variety in how you could play a retro game. There's no real wrong way, apart from maybe having it 16:9 or a 4:3 game on 16:9 screen, which gives me a headache when I see it. But I don't care if someone likes doing that and they want to fill their TV screen and it looks stretched and awful. You know what? Yeah. Good luck to them. That's cool. If you're happy to do it, it makes you feel good. Do it.
But
do it.
I think it came. Let's go back to Jazz Rignall's point. Was actually people moaning about this, which may not even be a non-issue. I don't really think people think these things. We're accusing them of thinking. They probably don't really think that. It's probably a very small minority that do. But actually, the videos that I like on YouTube are where people are like reminiscing about games they played, or they're looking back on series of games, and they're actually very interesting sort of series. And it might sound a little bit awful to say, but I think I used to like them, but now videos where someone going, oh yeah, no, I got this one for £7. It actually the market value is about 15. Yeah, I don't really like it, but on the shelf it goes. Our next one, I got this, I traded this for that, and and on the shelf it goes. And I'd actually rather see more sort of documentary style interesting videos where I'm engaged with them, not just someone showing what they've bought. And to me, that's a much better video of and people to come to mind, like sort of Kim Justice and
well, the main problem I would have with what Jazz was saying there, and I agree on it somewhat, but it sort of smacks to me of, I don't like those sort of videos, therefore no one should make them ever. And it's like, well, you can't say that, and it's not like people are making these sorts of videos, therefore the good type aren't getting made, which is not the case.
There's both, isn't
you
there?
can choose to not watch these videos, and they'll go and you can watch the ones that are more your cup of tea. You can't tell people stop making this exact precise form of content I don't agree with. I'm going to cleanse the YouTube world of things that I don't like that are a bit negative. So I don't think he can that's what it comes across as a little bit. So I get he's trying to sound like we should be all happy and talk about fun things all the time. Yeah, but there are other aspects to retro gaming that and then there's room to talk about that stuff. You don't have to watch it. I know it's a cliche. You can just hand wave it away and say, well, just don't watch then. Scroll on. But it's true.
It's true. It's 100% true. And
as much as he can call it out, and he's free to do that, they're free to make whatever bloody videos that they want, and they're not. I don't think he really watched them. I think he admits that later in the thread, and people actually were kind of sticking up for the people, saying they're actually not slagging off retro gaming. They're literally just replying to RGT, who actually was making a point about. He was actually making the point that Jazz is making. Really, Jazz is saying people shouldn't be negative about this stuff. RGT was talking about people being negative about.
Exactly. If you look at RGT, he's actually calling out bullying.
Yeah.
On a Facebook group.
Exactly.
And that's 100% what you should do is you should call out bullying, on a Facebook group and say, actually, no, you shouldn't be saying that. And good on you, lad, for playing, your 4x3 game in 16:9. As long as you're enjoying it, that's great. Oh, but maybe you might want to just change the ratio. You might enjoy it even more.
Yeah.
Turn sort of maybe a negative into a positive.
Give them something to chew on. Give them something to chew on is basically what you're saying. I mean, there's so much that people can critique about retro gaming as well. Some people say, you can have someone will have a go at you for getting a retro duo, and they'll be like, oh, that you should use the original hardware. Some people will say, no, don't use the original hardware. You're dumb. You should get a Raspberry Pi for 10 quid and load all the emulators on. And people saying that's dumb. Other people say, no, I'd rather get a Nintendo Switch and play Switch Online because the developers are getting money for the ROMs now. And I'm not just, you're a pirate. You should go to prison for downloading 700 NES games and putting them on an Everdrive. And there's about how to connect it to a screen. Some people are like, it has to be a CRT or we don't play it, like ever. You have to have scan lines if you're playing on because it needs to look dim and crap. I've said before that I like really sharp pixels, and I know someone will say to that, well, that's not how it's supposed to look. It's supposed to have that Vaseline layer that a CRT provided to sort of fudge out the fine details. That's what the designers were kind of aiming for. I was like, yeah, that's cool. I actually like looking at the artwork in its purest form, blocky and everything. I kind of get a kick out of that. And to be honest, I've been playing old games on modern screens for longer than I was playing them on CRTs now. I get that's the OG way of doing it, and the way nature intended. But I've forgotten what it's like to play. I haven't played on a CRT. I had a widescreen CRT until about 2010. And to be honest, I wasn't really playing retro games on that. I was playing like PS3 on that. So, I mean, there might have been some retro compilations on that PS3 that I might have played, PS1 games, I guess. But then there's an argument that like PS1 3D polygon games aren't really the same when it comes to the CRT kind of effect. Maybe more on N64 games that are very blurry and soft, sort of looking, it helps. But that'll annoy people saying that. There's and people just argue over just the classic playground. I mentioned, I think in the last Console Shock about an argument started about the sales figures of the N64 versus the PS1, and someone just tried to stick up for the N64. It was like I can't remember exactly what I said now, but I read it. Someone put a trolling post out saying, there was 30 million people bought 100 million PS1s and 30 million N64s, but the real gamers, they bought the proper
What's a real gamer?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. What's a real gamer?
Yeah,
I'm a real gamer because I play RPGs and I speed run Super Mario Brothers 3 all day. Am I a real gamer because you play FIFA and you like to play Bejeweled when you're on the train? Who's the real gamer? What
there's that has layers to it, doesn't it? And there was someone on some journalist said on Twitter when the Game Boy was announced for the Switch Online, they said, oh yeah, it's really no, don't even bother with the original Game Boy. There's not a single good game on it. And it's just everyone went berserk, and he's completely wrong. That's utter bullshit. Well, I'm not sure he believes that. I think he put it out there just for shits and giggles. But yeah.
Do you know what? With that, I'll quickly talk about that Game Boy thing, and I was like, oh yeah, what a good mix of games. Super Mario 3, Legend of Zelda, not Link to the Past,
Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening, and then there's Alone in the Dark game, and that I was thinking,
the Game Boy Color game. Yeah,
bloody. I bet that is awful.
It's kind of a bizarre selection, I have to say.
I thought Super Mario Land 2,
and no Super Mario Land 1, I don't think.
That'll probably come in the next wave, but I was very surprised that wasn't there in the first place. And Tetris, but no one was sitting there going, "Oh,
Alone in the Dark,
brilliant!
Sure.
Alone in the Dark, a new nightmare, or whatever." That's a game that no.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of this. I mean, there's it's called Probotector here, but Operation C, the Game Boy Contra game, is freaking brilliant. You've got like
Is
Nemesis.
That on there, is it? Or
no, it's not. I guess it's in the Contra collection that you can get separately. But there are some games from the Contra collection in the other Switch Online stuff. So I don't think that's an issue really. But obviously, there's so many games. But a lot of the ones that I remember had some kind of a license attached. So even though like Double Dragon, they might struggle to get on there because the Game Boy had good Double Dragon games.
I used to like that actually.
Yeah.
So full list of games: Super Mario Land 2, Legends of Zelda's Link Awakening, the DX one, Gargoyle's Quest, which is actually I haven't really played that one, but it's part of the Ghosts and Goblins series. Game & Watch Gallery 3, Alone in the Dark, and New Nightmare. That just stands out.
It's interesting with Link's Awakening DX because I think that was the version of the game that has the WWE wrestling stable D-Generation X turn up during Link's quest, and Shawn Michaels sort of just comes on the screen and helps Link out along with Triple H.
Makes a cross over his groin.
Does a Link crotch chops at Ganon so hard that it brings the Triforce together.
Anyway, the other games are Metroid 2. I'm ignoring you now. Wario Land 3. Kirby's Dream Land and Tetris. So there's loads of classic games there, and Alone in the Dark, the New Nightmare.
Yeah,
and it's just like
you've just got on you hate that. You're like, what are you doing?
Honestly, it's what a stupid game to put in there.
I mean, it's a new nightmare putting that game in. Am I right?
Exactly. I'm gonna go and play it later and just see how bad it is. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a decent proposition these days. Switch Online with the amount of stuff. I mean, when it came out, it was kind of crap. Was it just NES and SNES at that point, wasn't it? Now and obviously the online saving and all that sort of stuff you got then, which was, I probably would argue you should get that by default, like you do with Steam for free, and like you do with like Xbox Live, the basic free version. I think PlayStation keeps it a lot behind a paywall, which is dumb. But and I do find it useful actually, the online cloud saving, because I've got two switches. I've got like a light when I'm just bumming around and I'm not near a TV, and I've got I've got one that's permanently sort of a home console. So it's handy having the saves bouncing between, the two without me having to do anything. It's not as elegant as the Xbox, where you don't really have to think about it. It just zooms the save up and does it in the background. You haven't got to, check it's gone up when you're playing in a game on another device. But yeah, I think it's better value for money now with the Game Boy, the Mega Drive, the Game Boy Advance, and N64. If it came out with that, I don't think people will have any arguments at the value in 2017.
No, exactly. And what's it like? £35 for the plus membership, and with all the games it's got on there now, and then the disc, and then you get lots of the expansions free. It's quite a good service. But anyway, the final thing, I sort of, if you got anything else to add in.
Oh God, no.
Last week, myself and Trev went to see.
We're not talking about football. We're not talking about football.
It's leading on to something, Trev. It's leading on to something.
No one cares.
You were talking about Millwall, how much you love Millwall earlier. So I'm going to talk about Cray Valley Paper Mills against Beckenham Town. And Beckenham Town won in the last moment. And anyway, but at that game, myself and Trev did a deal where I bought his old Everdrive off him.
Yes. And how are you getting on?
Do you know what? I'm really enjoying it, and surprisingly, it's what game I played on there. I played Sonic 2 on the Master System. I played Musha, which is absolutely brilliant.
Sunset Riders. I keep telling you to play.
Sunset Riders. I should put that on my list. Sunset Riders. I've actually played I think it's Tasmania on the. On the Master System.
Really good platformer,
yeah, but quite a few Master System games I've been enjoying, because I've not had a Master System set up for probably about 5-6 years, so it's actually going back and playing that is really good. But I think at the weekend I want to give it a good go again and play. I want to obviously try Contra Hard Corps.
Yes, probably try the Japanese version, because it's a little bit easier. You've got a life bar as opposed to just one-hit deaths.
Oh, I'll try that one.
So, Contra Spirits, I think it's called.
Castlevania as well.
Great game, yeah.
Yeah, and
Bloodlines.
Sort of brought a few. You keep on sort of messaging me. So, have you tried those hacks? So that Mortal Kombat game.
Oh yeah, Mortal Kombat Arcade.
I'll try it. I was never really the biggest fan of Mortal Kombat in the first place, but I will try it.
And the Arcade Edition is awesome.
Yeah, I'll give you feedback on that. But
have you tried the Game Gear conversion or the Game Gear conversions that are on there as well? People have
haven't actually.
Yeah.
Are they worth trying or?
Yeah, they are. They're basically because obviously the Game Gear did have some exclusives that never made it to the Master System, like things like Shinobi, the really excellent Game Gear Shinobi, literally called GG Shinobi.
Okay.
I never had them. There was a Shinobi on the Master System, but that was based on the original arcade game and came out before the Game Gear even was released, I think. But the Game Gear exclusive Shinobi is brilliant. But obviously there's no other version on any other system. But now, thanks to some people that are able to, that have been hacking some Game Gear ROMs and actually making them work on the Mega Drive, because it can kind of use the Mega Drive's Master System compatibility to sort of have them work. There are some issues where the Game Gear has a bigger palette of colors than the Master System, but they kind of tweak the color values and color tables so they'll fit within the limits of the Master System. And they play flawlessly. You can even pause with the start button. I think some Master System games have been hacked to allow you to pause with the start button on a Mega Drive controller. So they kind of are a better experience to play on the on the Everdrive. This hacks are a great thing that you wouldn't really have had access to apart from through like an emulator, perhaps. But yeah, I think you've got them all. There's tons for Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat Arcade Edition is amazing. It's like goes way beyond the hack. It's just like a completely rebuilt version of the game that makes it one of the best 16-bit version of that game now. And there's things coming out that hopefully, if we can get hold of a ROM for, like there's that Final Fight Arcade Edition.
Oh, yeah.
That's been made. Retro Gamer Boy did a video of that. It looks amazing. Looks better than Final Fight CD did on the Mega CD, which was pretty good already. There's the Sunset Riders Arcade Edition, because the Mega Drive version, as much as I told you should play it, it's missing quite a lot, because it's on a very small, like 4 megabit cartridge, whereas the arcade machine was like 16 meg. A team of people in Brazil have remade that now, and this looks perfect, like as arcade perfect, better than the Super Nintendo version, which was good. Those things you better load up on an Everdrive potentially, and you're using like the save states and all that sort of stuff as well.
So I'm going to ask you some obviously sort of stupid questions here, but just pop the memory card into my computer, download these new ROMs, and obviously just copy it into the correct folder.
Basically,
and away I go. Really, it's obviously sounds quite simple.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the only issue you're going to get, the Everdrive X7 doesn't sort files for you automatically. So if you drop a ROM into like one of the alphabetized folders that you got set up on there, it'll end up as the very last item, regardless of what letter the game starts with. I had to get a fat sorter app that I'd run on a PC. Fat as in file, the file type, the file hard drive.
Oh, like FAT32. They always say FAT32, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so either FAT1632 or exFAT. You need to get a fat sorter app, a file sorting app on your PC, and that will then reorder all of the files on the memory card. So the Everdrive Pro, when you plug it into a Mega Drive, they'll all be in alphabetical order. So you have to do, that's a little bit of like housekeeping you've got to do annoyingly. Things like the SD to SNES, or the FX Pack Pro as it's called now, the actual cartridge does the sorting of the games. It's got that extra ability to do that, as does the Mega Everdrive Pro, which I've now got, which is why Stu has my old one. So I don't have to do any of that stuff anymore, and the Everdrive Pro can play Mega CD. But they're great. Really. I mean, I've had an Everdrive for quite a few years on the Mega Drive, and it really opened my eyes to. When I was a kid, I had about 8 games for mine, and that was as far as it went. It was really playing emulators further down the line that I got to experience more games. But there's something about playing it on the real hardware, isn't there? That's always great.
Exactly. It in my opinion, it's a good experience, but other ways also. I've got to say that after. Obviously, what we were talking about earlier, but what's good about it is, I watched something from GameSack, which I watched at the weekend, and they'll talk about, this game, it's really good, or that game, it's rubbish, or it's good on the Mega Drive or the Master System, and then I'm like, right, I'll go and play that then, and then I've got it. Oh yeah, I've got the game, and because it's on the Everdrive, and then I can just go and give it a go, and actually, try it. Really, I'm not sort of going through there and going, playing all the old games that I used to. I'm sort of playing ones that potentially I would never have got. Like something like Musha was one of the first games I tried, because it's such an expensive cartridge if you want to play that in the first instance, and so it's. I don't even think it came out in the UK. I want to say.
I don't think it did. There was a lot of Genesis games that we didn't get. I'd say probably about 20 or 30, like kind of random. I think Musha's one. Like there's like Star Trek: The Next Generation we didn't get. There's loads of weird like random games that we didn't get. I mean, we got games that they didn't get as well, like International Superstar Soccer Deluxe, and that's probably obvious why we didn't get that. We didn't get NBA 98 or Madden 98. We got FIFA here, and
we got Premier Manager.
Yeah, Premier Manager and Premier Manager 97.
Yeah, I got that for Christmas one year, and I loved it.
Yeah, I got it for Christmas, weirdly enough, as well. The first one of the two. There was two of them, wasn't there? 97
I got the first one, or the
one,
one which had a close up of a football or a football boot on the front.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's the one I got, but the thing is with that game, I couldn't understand. I got all my players had, if they were a defender, their defense was 99. If they're a midfielder, all their midfield stat was 99, and if they're attacking, they're all attacking 99, and I couldn't understand why I lost matches.
Yeah, I could never find the magic formula that will win me the games.
So I should win every match. Why do I not win? Do I need to put worse players in? What's wrong?
The eternal question, isn't it?
Exactly.
It was quite exciting that coming out on the Mega Drive, although already at that point, like the PlayStation had been out, I think, already for a few months, and the Saturn. But you didn't find those management games on consoles, really. I can't even think of one before.
You didn't. But I wanted to play it on there because I thought, it'd be really quick, and it was. It didn't have quite all the features as
It's a little bit clunky, wasn't it? Controlling the menus.
Yeah, they always had
They
always had, really sort of odd menu systems. But once you got the hang of it and you knew your way around, and I think if I went, I probably wouldn't want to go onto the Everdrive and play Premier Manager 98 on there. But it's not something I sort of maybe sort of fondly think about. But it was a really sort of good game, really, and.
Yeah, very, very late. It was just an unusual decision for them to sort of choose to release that at the point of time it did. But I see loads of copies of it floating around. So I think it did well.
They did two of them, didn't they? So
yeah, they did. Yeah. So obviously did well for them. And it's an interesting one, especially the second one to track down, because obviously that's a bit rarer. But that was kind of in that blue spine sort of era of Mega Drive sort of box art. And also on the Everdrive you've got there, you can also play Virtua Racing. It's got the ability to run sort of the SVP chip, the one SVP chip game that came out, Virtua Racing, which is really awesome on the Mega Drive. Not really the way, not the version of the game you'd probably want to play with all the ones you've got access to nowadays. But it's just cool to see a game like that running on the Mega Drive and running really well. Certainly when you compare it to Star Fox, it's like twice the frame rate, nearly. But yeah, very, very cool device. I certainly would recommend Everdrives for all the systems if you can afford them. They're not cheap, unfortunately, but I think the value for money is just the ability to play every game that ever came out, pretty much. I think that justifies the price, doesn't it? You're probably saving your cartridge slot a lot of wear as well, right? By not
exactly. It just sort of sits in there, and away you go, really. So you've got no real. I think it's really good, and
cool. Stu recommends it. So where can you find us on the internet, Stu?
Right, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on all of the podcast clients and things like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, any sort of podcast client. We're on all of those. We're on Twitter. If you search Console Shock on there, and on Facebook as well under Console Shock. So give us a shout on there. Give us any of your feedback. We love to hear it all. And see you next time.
Thanks, Stu, and thanks everyone for listening, and we will catch you in the next one. Take care, everybody.
See you later. Bye-bye.